Hi there, and my name is Dave, and today I'm going to give you kind of an introductory lesson in the workings of GIMP. So let's get started here. First, I'm going to open up the program. Got my coffee, so I'm good to go here. Okay, and GIMP just came out with a new version, 2.10, and it's a lot better, I've noticed, than the previous versions. As far as like just the look of this toolbox area is cool and different. You can change the settings of it. If you go to like preferences, tool options, actually interface, that's right, interface, theme, you can change the light, gray, dark, and then that icon theme, it's set at legacy, but you can also set it to color. And see, it looks a little bit different over here. Symbolic, it's more black and white. Symbolic inverted. I just usually set it at legacy. I think that's fun. Okay, yeah, there's a few changes here, and we can get into that as we go. The first thing I'm going to do here is open up a couple files and basically create a little collage. I'll just give you kind of the beginning of that. So we go to File and Open and look for these files. Basically, you should just download a couple pictures, a couple JPEGs or PNG files. Hopefully not too large, because the larger the file, the larger the file size, the harder it is to work with. So I'll just go to this and go to my GIMP. And if you just hit Open instead of Open As, you can select multiple files by pressing Control. I'm just going to press Control and select this highway and this Maserati. Basically, I'm going to cut out the picture of the car and place it on the image of the highway. So press Open. It'll ask you, do you want to change the color profile from RGB, which is red, green, blue, to I think CMYK, which is cyan, yellow, magenta, I forget, but I usually just keep it as it is, and I'll just open up in a minute. So we got these two images here. And first of all, we're going to deal with the car image. So if you go to the bottom of the window, you can, where it looks like a little arrow, you just left click, and then you can make that window bigger, smaller, whatever size you want. Okay, that makes the window bigger. But then the actual image, we want that a little bit bigger too. So we go over here to the tool area, and this one looks like a magnifying glass, is a zoom tool. And any of these tools around here, if you click on any of them, there'll be options that come up below that you can change. So if I'm just clicking on that magnifying glass, I've got the option to either zoom or zoom out, and I want to zoom in a little bit. So we just hover over the image and see it looks like a plus, and then also you see the image of a magnifying glass. So there's that. And I just click once and that makes it bigger. So yeah, but whatever works for you. I think this will be fine for me. So now I'm going to want to cut out this image. And by doing that, I go over here to the tool area and select the scissors. And this one, it's got options underneath. Aliasing, anti-aliasing, I usually will check that. And also feather edges, I check that as well, because if you don't, basically you'll be cutting a very definite division between what you want and what you don't want. But if you check feathered edges, you get a little bit more leeway. And then it'll ask you, like, what's your radius? 10 pixels is pretty good. So how we're going to cut this out, we're just going to go to one edge and left click, and that created a node. And then I keep going around the whole perimeter. And you get better as you do this. I click again, and it created another node, and this time it created a line between the two nodes. And I go around here. See, now this time it created a line within the object, and we can go over and fix that later, or we can just left click on that line, drag the line out, and it just fixed it. So I will show you the other way to do it as well. Okay, see, this time it didn't get the entire parameter, but I will fix that later. All right, I'm going to go around the entire parameter of this vehicle. I'm going to include the shadow, but whatever you want to include, it's up to you. Going to the outer edge parameter of the entire object. And I'm not going to include this side view mirror because that's just too much work. But see, when I hover over the very first node that I created, you'll see what looks like a little infinity sign. That is kind of your end piece. So click once on that, and then you click anywhere within this area. And now see, it changed it to looks like dancing ants. That means you've captured all of this. But I didn't capture all of this part. So the way to fix that is to make sure that my mode is in addition, adding to the current selection. If I got too much and I didn't want it, then I would switch that to subtract. See, if I switch to subtract and I click again around here, and I also go the same thing, I click the, see, now I haven't captured this, but I do want to capture it. So I'm going to click add again and click around this area and go to the very first one I created and then click within. So now I've got it all and I've captured all of this. And I want to click this area that I forgot to click, forgot to capture before. Okay, so now I've got all of this. Next step is to go up to Edit and then choose Copy. So now we've got it copied. Now we go to the background image that we want to use. I'm going to make that bigger once again by clicking around and switch to the magnifying glass and make that image bigger. Now we're going to paste it into this image. We can do that a few different ways. We could either go to Edit and choose Paste, or if you want to learn the hotkeys, I believe it's Control V. So that put it right in there too. And it's rather large. And every time we put an image or any kind of thing on our canvas, it's shown as a layer in this layer dialog box. And when we first paste something in, it's not a layer, it's shown as a floating selection. At this point, we can mess with it, we can manipulate it. We can, let's see, if we go to this tool up here, which looks like rotate, if I click on that, there's a whole bunch of other choices here. This is also something new with the 2.10 version. I want to choose scale, and then I'll click on that, and I could just change the size of that particular image right now. And I can move it around by, if I go to the center where the square is, and I left click, then I can move that car around. And I can also go to any one of these corners and left click and make them smaller. Now another change is that this is the width and the height, but there's a chain next to it. That's closed. That is your perspective. If it was open, then if I was to try to change the scale of it, it wouldn't be in proportion. But I'm going to reset that so it is the way I want it to be and then close it. And now I can make it smaller, and then I can move the car down here and make that quite a bit smaller so it looks like it's on the highway. And if I'm happy with that, then I'll press scale. And now it's there, it's the right size, but it's still a selection. I want it to be a layer. So I go over here, this green square, I'll click on that, and now it's a layer. And you can have as many layers as you want. It's a cool thing. And also, if you make a mistake, you can undo your mistake. You can either do that by going up to Edit and Undo, or if you like hotkeys, you can press Control Z. You can press Control Z to your heart's delight, and it'll go back to the very beginning of what you were doing. So here, with these layers, there's like a little eyeball next to it. That means it's visible. Like if I click on that, closes the eyeball, then I don't see my image. And I can also double click on the layer and I can rename it. I'll rename it as car and press enter. And with these layers, what's ever on top is the layer that's on top here. I can move this layer down by going to this arrow key. And now it's below the highway layer. So now I don't see it. I make it above again. Another thing you do with any of these layers, like if you don't want to accidentally move them around, you can lock them. Looks like a little lock. Now I can't move that if I wanted to. There's this tool here, which is a move tool. Looks like an iron cross. And I guess I can still move that around. Okay, well, that's cool. I thought it was like locking it down, but apparently not. And any of these layers, also you can change the opacity of it. Like if I want it to be transparent, like if I'm working on a layer below it and I want to see what it looks like, I change the opacity. So there's that. With any of these layers, you can also create a duplicate of that layer. I could put the layer into a group of layers. And I can basically, when you create a whole bunch of layers, before you're finished with the project, you want to merge all the layers. You want to combine all the layers. You can do that a few different ways. This button here just merges the one layer above it down to the other layer. If I choose that, now it's all in one layer. Now if I move this layer, I'll be moving the entire thing. I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to undo the layer merging. So now it's back at that layer. So here, as I say, you can merge down layer by layer, or if you have a whole bunch of layers and you want to flatten them all, you go up to layers. Is it layers? Oh no, wait, it's images. That's right. You go up to image, and then you could either choose to merge visible layers or flatten the image. They do relatively the same thing, except I think merge visible layers will give you a dialog box where you can choose what you want to do. Do you want to clip to the image or expand as needed, no matter like what your layers? If you have a layer that goes way out to one area, it'll expand it as your whole picture. So now we're going to merge it. So now it's all one layer again. I'm going to undo that. So anyway, that is that. Okay, continuing on. I like what we got going on here. Show you a tiny little thing here. If you want to add text to this image, you go over here to this, looks like a giant capital A. I'll click on that and then hover over my image, and it looks like a square. I'll left click and drag, and it makes like a box. I want to move this down a little bit so I can see all of my box. But at this point, we can write, let's see, let's just try type in the words blue sky, or the sky, the blue sky. And that's too big. I'm going to left click and drag throughout this whole thing, and then I'm going to go up to where it says 74. That's your font size. I'm going to make that a little bit less big. I click on these arrows. It looks pretty good. And then as far as the font type, it says Ubuntu Mono Bold. And it's black. I'm going to change that. If I click on that, it opens up this color text box. I could show these different colors. I can look at different color palettes. The wheel, I like this one. I could just drag this around. I want it kind of blue, so I'll try, let's see, maybe just a dark blue. Now press OK, and now my font is blue. As far as fonts go, Ubuntu, I mean, GIMP comes with its own fonts, but they're not that great. This program is designed to be used by people all over the world, so there are many fonts. Here, I can just show you over here. If I go click on this font dialog box, it gives me a list of all these different fonts. And some of them are from, like, I think from Arabic countries, and the Orient. I've put in a whole bunch of my own fonts that I like, but a lot of them I can't tell what they are. And if you don't want to look at it as a list, you can also go over here and you click on the font dialog selection box. That opens up another window, and you can stretch that. But I want to see it not as a list, but I could see it as a grid. And that we can make bigger, and we can look at a bunch of fonts. And they're all going to be on a grid. Now, as I say, I've added my own fonts here, and I could show you how to do that later on. Some of these fonts do not show up because they're like from a different country, so they show up kind of weird. But the fonts that come with this program are okay. They're not amazing. So I'm just going to click out of that. Anyway, I'm down there. So the text is just showing up as a text layer. At this point, I want to move this around, and I could just move this text up. I can also go up here. I can scale the size of it. I can rotate it. I can flip it. Do a bunch of things. But okay, we're kind of done, almost done here. So all these layers, I'm just going to flatten them all. Merge visible layers, merge. So now it's all one layer. Now we're ready to save, and we want to export this. So we go up to File and Export. We could either choose, if we want to name it like Highway for GIMP, which I don't, I would just choose that and would overwrite it as a JPEG. But I'm going to choose Export As. Now this brings me to a dialog box where I could choose where I want to save it. Right now it's Highway for GIMP. I'm going to rechange that to like car finished.jpg. And then what type I want it to be, I'll select that. The type of finished piece. There's many different choices here. If I scroll down, the really popular formats would be JPEG. There's Photoshop. You can use stuff with Photoshop, PNG. I'm just going to select JPEG. And I'm just going to select, put it in there, export, and it's doing its thing. Apparently it's like, okay, it opens up a new dialog box with more options. Do you want to save all this data? And it's up to you. I just press export. Oh yeah, and the quality. You want the quality to probably be, it's set for 90%. I'm just going to keep it as that. Export. And now it's saved it. Now from there, you can email that finished JPEG. You can send it off to someone. You can do whatever you want with it. Thank you for watching.